You asked Robbo how high the Dockers could fly. Well, tonight, Mike declares they're heading to the big dance in September. Looking forward to this, Michael.
In his mid-60s.
Everyone in Western Australia is also looking forward to it. The big dance, it's a big call.
It is a big call, but I did say 2 weeks ago, Jared, I like the Dockers. Rizzy thinks I'm late on the bus, but I did like them then, with the proviso that Stephen Hill had a big September. Their dismantling of Carlton at the weekend was as clinical as anything I've seen, and so Sydney-like. If a couple of results go their way in the next month, they can finish top two. If they finish top two, I think they'll win the flag.
Okey-doke. Well, let's take a look at the AFL ladder as it sits, and you can build your case. You said you were going to tell us a couple of things about the Dockers that we don't know. I hope they're...
I'll tell you 10, Jared.
10?
10.
OK, we like that. Well, take us through the ladder as you see it, Ruzi.
Yeah, big weekend, obviously, for the Swans and Freo jumping over the top of a couple of teams. Sydney go to second. And Mike will tell us, I mean, the home field advantage is going to be huge. Port, a super win by Port as well. Carlton just hanging in there. And we've got Daniel Wells later on, which will be good to talk to him. North had a fantastic win. And I'll probably forget the rest, I would think, at the moment. But Freo, Michael, over to you.
Well, the top four is set. It's just a matter of now how they position themselves. Freo's clearly got the best run home. Well, have a look at their run. They win all 4 of their remaining games. It's a question of how the other results fall. Now, there they are currently 4th. GWS, Melbourne, Port Adelaide, but that's at Patterson Stadium, and St Kilda.
Yep.
So I give them 4 wins there clearly.
Yeah,
right?
you think so.
And it also gives them an opportunity, I guess, to rest some senior players.
It does.
And percentage.
It's a perfect run-in for them.
And percentage
Well, the
as well.
percentage is going to be important, Ruzi, depending on what happens in the other games, with Sydney and Hawthorn particularly. I think Geelong will finish top, or certainly 1 or 2.
Well, let's take a look at Hawthorn's run home before you start declaring the Cats. There it is, round 20. Well, that's a win and a significant percentage booster. You reckon they'll knock off the Pies at the MCG?
Oh, that's line ball, 50-50.
A loss to North Melbourne.
Well, I'm giving them one of those 2 games that are really tight.
So you're going 2 and 2.
Yeah, I am.
Maybe
I've got them at 2 and 2.
Yeah, 2 and 2.
Yeah.
So not necessarily in that order, but yeah.
Okie-doke. Geelong's is up next. Let's take a look at the Sydney Swans, in fact. It is the Pies, the Saints. You reckon it's a loss against the Cats in round 22?
So I've given the Swans 3, but that round 23 game, in my scenario, will decide whether Fremantle can finish top 2. Now, you can't call that, can you? It's Sydney and Hawthorn, round 23.
Geelong's run
There's
home,
the
so
Geelong run.
You'd think, I mean, the Sydney one's a tough one there. I mean, Sydney have beaten them recently at Simmons.
I wouldn't pick against Geelong at home against
So you've
anyone.
given them 4?
Yeah, so I've given them 4, which will take them to top spot.
Okie-doke. Well, give us a look at your final 4 then. This is how it sits. If, in fact, your crystal ball is as clear as we would like to think it is. Currently, here it is, the top 4 positions. Hawks, Swans, and Freo are currently in 4th position. The Cats are in 3rd, and it's going to turn around to look at this.
Well, look, this is all prognostication.
I like prognostication.
And I'm going Geelong and Freo with a couple of things that have to fall into place.
I mean, that's a big last round, Sydney Hawthorn.
Massive.
And I think that's where the percentage with the Swans versus the Dockers could be
percentage
huge. I mean,
is
they're a long way
huge.
behind.
Best part of 20 at the moment.
Yeah.
But remembering who they play again, I mean, they could pick up 100 points against Melbourne and say 70 to 90 against GWS.
Are you remembering that the only sides they've beaten in the top 8 right now are Collingwood and Port Adelaide, for memory, and a draw against the Sydney Swans?
That doesn't worry me. The form I've seen, leave the Richmond one aside, but their form of the past 10 weeks says to me they're as good as anyone.
And they snuck a go. They did beat Richmond early in the year by a couple of points at home.
Can you now tell everyone, apart from the Fremantle fans, because they'll know it, but can you tell everyone some of the things, 10 things we don't know about the Dockers?
And not the obvious
Not
stuff.
the obvious ones.
Okay, right. Let's start. They've won 22 of the past 29 games. Now, that's good form. They're red hot in that area. They've conceded more than 85 points only twice this year.
So they can defend.
Yes, they've won 14 of the past 15 of Patterson.
Which is a big one if they get top 2.
This is the critical one of all. This is number 1 in order of importance. If they can get to that ground for the first round of the finals, that makes me think that they're unstoppable from there. They use the interchange the second most of any team, so the blokes are fresh. And the other thing that indicates the fresh with the important players, Sandilands, Pavlich and McFarlane have played only 22 of 54 games.
Yeah, 3 of their top half dozen.
I'll give you a couple of names that aren't... obviously, you blokes are familiar with. Subin and Mzungu.
Yeah.
Now, how good have they been this year? How much have they developed?
Subin is a gun right
Yep.
now, and Mazunga will be in the top 2 or 3 in their best and fairest.
Zach Clark's maturity takes the pressure off Sandy Lens, means they can play him forward, means they don't have to overwork him. Lee Spur, you heard of him, you blokes?
Yeah, half-back.
He locks away the best small forward. Now, that's critical when the blokes can do as much damage as, say, like Walters and Ballantyne do for Freo. Clancy Pearce with the Tats man. Now, he's just grown, hasn't he? He's so reliable down the back, and he's so creative down the back. So I love the way he plays. And Matt de Boer, just under pressure, the things that they do. Look, I think they're really important things. I can't see a weakness in this.
I mean, that's team. A good list when you consider these are... You know, we're not talking about Mundy and Barlow and Fife and all those guys, Walters and Ballantyne and Hill and Pearce. I mean, that's a good list. There's a secondary list in terms of, you know, what your best is.
Isn't it predicated, though, on 2 things? Pavlich comes back and remains uninjured, and McFarlane comes back.
Yeah, McFarlane will be back after a hammy. That's a way. Pavlich is coming back. He's not coming back from injury. He's coming back from a holiday. They'll have loaded him up with work, and he'll be ready to go. If Pav will have 4 more games before the final.
I've got you one key, Mike. One key for the Dockers. And it's the block of flats.
Yes.
I think he needs to go back to school on his marking. If he can go forward and take some big marks, then I think he can become a significant player. Just have a look at this. It happens way too often. He's on the move when he goes to take the mark. He's got to plant those big legs and make whoever it is behind him get around him.
I agree with that.
And once again, he's always moving.
But he did take a good one at the weekend.
He can mark, but he's got to get his base set and wide. He's got to go into the black belt fighting position.
It's a technique problem. He doesn't sort of spread his feet when he's marking
himself.
But I mean, he hasn't done a lot. He's predominantly been a ruckman.
That's
so it's a chance with Clark.
So
the point is,
send him forward. Don't send him off the ground.
And something Ross could probably do in the next 4 weeks is give him a big block of time as a forward.
And he takes 3 or 4 of those, Jared. And the confidence grows. I mean, Rizzi said there might be a technical flaw there, but I like, if it's working and it's going well, he takes 3 or 4. He'll take a lot more after that.
Does Ross go down the resting path? I think he probably regretted, as he said it in his press conference last couple of weeks ago, not resting McFarlane. He's got an opportunity now, given he's got some games he should be able to lock away.
I think absolutely. Yeah, the midfield's been working really hard for a long period of time. Those better players. Do you give Mundy a break? Do you give Barlow a break? Obviously, you're going to bring Pavlich in and give him the rest of the season. McFarlane's an interesting one. I mean, he's a really critical. Do you bring him in for 2 or give him a rest?
The thing they can do with McFarlane is not rush him.
No, that's not rushing.
Like if he's ready, give him 1 more week.
I honestly believe with that run home, and without being disrespectful to those teams, we saw Geelong do it really, really well. In their run into the finals. So it is something teams have done in the past and done well and been very effective.